What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Weights and Waffles podcast. I am your host, Claire, and this is Astasia. We are excited to have you guys today. We are going to be talking about the hottest topic, I think, out there right now. Like, if you haven't heard nothing about semaglutide, Ozempic, any of these quote unquote drugs that are injectables, you've probably been sleeping under a rock, right, Astasia? I
Yeah,
mean,
definitely.
it is like you can't even turn a corner or swipe on social media without seeing something about this. And so we wanted to bring this to the table because one, it's extremely popular and everybody's talking about it. Everybody kind of has their own opinion. But she and I both have had, I mean, I know you have, and I've had some women reach out asking our opinion and insight on this. And I'll be the first. I'm curious, kind of your side of it, Astasia, but I'll be the first to admit I was like, no thanks. I'm good. That sounds like a quick fix. Doesn't sound like it's going to be safe. And the last thing I want is for people to feel like they're getting their hopes up with something that's just going to damage them further down the road. But that was an uneducated opinion, fully uneducated. I hadn't taken the time to actually research at all. I'm curious, like when this kind of started coming to the forefront, what your thoughts were on it.
Yeah, totally. I always try to keep my opinions to myself when something like this comes about because my opinions are usually like negative. This is a quick fix. You're a quitter if you're taking this. But like you said, very, very uneducated opinion, especially this all. And I feel like those opinions really probably sprouted from the way that it's being marketed. These are not something that is new. It's just they're being utilized in a different manner, and so they're getting more spotlight. And so it's super interesting. There's so much to be learned. I think it's important to first of all like say we're not giving medical advice.
Right.
We're not, obviously we want you to talk to your doctors, but being coaches in this space and realizing that this is here to stay, I think is important to have a really open conversation about the risks and the benefits of potentially using something like this in your journey to health and wellness.
Yeah, yeah. And to kind of piggyback on that, just we want you guys to know like the purpose of this to talk about it is one, I have since she and I both have since learning of this and kind of having our initial opinions have done a lot of deep diving and researching, connecting with experts in the field. And these experts are people who are not staunch. They're not like black and white in their thought processes. They are intelligent, very well rounded, medical professionals that have really probably been researching a lot of this for longer than it's been, in the forefront. And the education that we hope to pay forward today is education for you to make the most informed decision with obviously with your doctor. And we're not here to like try to change your opinion. So whatever your opinion is, that is your that is 1,000% your prerogative. We are not here to like sway you one side of the fence or the other. So we want to make sure that we kind of say that up front as we're diving into the education of this. We just want you to be able to have good information to hopefully understand this a little better. So let's dive right
Exactly.
in. So semaglutide is it's a signaling peptide hormone. So just to kind of give a little like backtrack so you understand, a peptide is a chain of amino acids. So think of amino acids as like building blocks, like Lego blocks. Each amino acid is a small building piece. All right. So when you link a bunch of these amino acids together in a long line, like kind of like snapping Legos together, you get a chain, right? It's all connected. And this chain of amino acids, it can fold, it can twist, it can take on, different shapes, just like you use Legos to build different structures and different shapes with. And the cool thing is these peptides, they do all sorts of really important jobs in the body, like messaging relay. They help our bodies grow, repair, they help to heal our bodies, which is one of the big things that we're going to talk about today. And then giving us energy as well, just to name a few. And we have many naturally occurring signaling peptides in the body, and GLP-1, if you've heard of that term, GLP-1 is one of them, and it is a physiological regulator of appetite and food intake. And we'll kind of talk deep dive into that here in a little bit. But The really interesting thing with semaglutide is it is bioidentical. That means in structure, it is identical to this GLP-1 that's naturally occurring in our bodies. And that GLP-1 is in our gut and in our brain. So it's identical to this GLP-1, this naturally occurring peptide in our systems, with one caveat. And the caveat is that it has been tweaked so that it has a longer half-life, which simply means that it stays in the system active. Its actual action that it produces stays in the system much, much longer than our naturally occurring GLP-1 peptide, which is in minutes or way less than that, actually. And the length, the half-life of this semaglutide is it's lasting about a week, right? I think that's kind of the research that we've seen. It lasts about a week in the body. And these hormones are naturally occurring hormones. They're meant to signal various, communications in the system, and their actions are meant to be brief and potent, kind of like get in, get out, move on. And so the fact that these GLP-1 agonists that they've created, they have the ability to extend the life of the action in the body. It's really remarkable, to be honest. Like, it's really fascinating. And one of the things, I think the thing that really drew my attention to learning about this even more was not from the weight loss side of things. It's actually more from the other conditions and the other actions that it's helping in people's bodies. Weight loss aside, that's what drew my biggest interest, was when I heard them talking about the neuroplasticity and the ability to create new neural pathways in the brain, and how it's helping with like habit formation and breaking of old habits. And that, to me, I was like, wait a second, this isn't just a quick fix, like injection drug thing for weight loss. Okay, you have my attention. And so a lot of the research that they've been talking about is that it impacts the brain in a very, very positive way. So it's actually regenerative, not degenerative. And it actually decreases neural inflammation, which, as we know, excessive inflammation over long periods of time can cause a host of nasty issues in our bodies. So these peptides have anti-inflammatory effects throughout the body. And one of the really fascinating things is that they actually they sit on our immune cells. So they bind to our immune cells, and they have the action, I guess, of helping our bodies regenerate and heal. And they're actually helping to heal people's metabolisms while they're on the injections. So a lot of people, have pretty effed up metabolisms. I think the study that we saw was like in 2018, over 94% of US Americans had like a busted metabolism that was like not functioning well. And so these GLP-1s peptides are actually helping to heal and reverse the damage that's been done to people's metabolisms while they're taking it. So it's not just a band-aid. And that, she and I both had that initial opinion of like, this is just a band-aid, a quick fix, and it's not. And that's pretty awesome. So these peptides, they actually will insert themselves into the cells where they need to begin repairing damage. And so the big thing with this is that they help the cells to become more insulin sensitive. So if you guys know anything about like type 2 diabetes, obesity, these people are, even midlife, perimenopause and menopause women, we become more insulin resistant. So these peptides are helping the cells to become more insulin sensitive. And that insulin resistance and the leptin resistance is being addressed. So it's being reversed, it's being taken care of. And the body, when we talk about, just a side note for leptin, if you guys aren't familiar with leptin hormone, it helps to regulate energy balance in the system by suppressing hunger. And our bodies cannot actually function properly. Leptin doesn't function properly without enough GLP-1 in the system. So again, these are working hand in hand to really give the metabolism like the best boost that it can possibly have. And if you've heard a lot of the negativity out there, I'm sure you guys have, it's not necessarily that the peptide itself is the negative thing. People are kind of like throwing shade at the peptide itself, but it's actually the overuse by patients and the overprescribing by doctors. And not all doctors are doing this, but a lot are. But it's the overuse and the over abuse of the prescription that is really causing the issues. I know a minute ago, or before we jumped on, Astasia, you were talking about share with them a little bit about the women that have been reaching out to you that have had a negative experience with this because of that.
Yeah, so in my research, obviously I gather as much information as I can, and then I really want to talk to people who are utilizing it. And what I found was the people who were being prescribed it were being prescribed, this very large dose, ramping up high, levels for the first couple weeks, coming off. Great weight loss. But they were having some side effects from it. They would come off of it, obviously gain the weight back because there was no lifestyle changes being integrated with the medication. Probably gain more weight. And then when they would go to their doctors and ask for help, it was, well, you have to be on this medication for the rest of your life to continue to have those results. And that's really negative. It's really poor on the health community, but also not uncommon, right? This is kind of the normal.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, like you said, it's changing the brain chemistry, helping our appetite regulation, helping those neural pathways change. I mean, we've seen studies repeatedly showing that food is designed, especially highly processed and highly palatable food, is designed to trigger our pleasure center. Well, now we have this medication that is helping reverse that.
Yep.
But it begs the question, if this is doing that, then why isn't there more conversation around, guiding these people and helping them use it in a way that is appropriate?
Right.
So
yeah, that is a big thing. I'll probably touch on that here in a second. I'll circle back to that. But if you think about the use of like hormone replacement therapy, if you are, go to your doctor, especially women, like as we're, transitioning through perimenopause and menopause, and your body is needing some replacement or optimization therapy, your doctor's not just going to throw you on like the highest dosage of estrogen. Like that would send your body into a tizzy. You would be miserable.
hopefully.
Oh my gosh, hopefully they don't do that. But there's so much research of, hormone replacement therapy has been around for a very long time. So your doctor's not just going to put you on the highest dosage and be like, oh, let's see if this works. And then we can like titrate down. And they start low and then they increase. And that is not the case with these injections. In fact, the pre-filled pen, most of them are pre-filled pens. You can do a compounding of this if you prefer. But the pre-filled pen, the starting dosage on it is pretty high. I don't know the exact number, but I know the max dosage is 2.4. But the ramp up phase from the starting dosage over the course of about 16 weeks, it almost doubles like each week. And it is honestly, for the majority of people, it is too much too fast, because a lot of the majority of the people who are utilizing this are overweight, type 2 diabetic. They're like Astasia was talking, their lifestyle choices are little subpar. And they're basically coming to the table, no pun intended, with an already jacked up metabolism. Like it's already been damaged from years of, not taking care of their bodies. And just know, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, that's me, like, this is not a judgment conversation at all. This is education. We are not here to judge. In fact, we want to support you, like wherever you are on your journey. If you're just starting out, this feels overwhelming, like we're here, like let us help you in any way that we can. But these people are coming to the table with this already messed up metabolism, and then they're being sent to the opposite end of the spectrum by being given a high dosage of this medication. And their metabolism, it just gets crushed like right out of the gates. And so instead of eating maybe, a whole pizza and a box of breadsticks, they're eating half, which in theory, you're probably like, okay, ladies, that's a good thing, right? It is, yes, but they're still overeating nutrient deficient foods. Like they're still not changing lifestyle habits and lifestyle nutrition habits, nutrition and exercise. Like they're not changing any of that. So
Yep.
if you want to share a stage, like can you explain to folks why all of a sudden like they get on this medication and all of a sudden they don't want to eat that whole pizza? Like what has like, why is that happening?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we touched pretty heavily on the mental aspect, the brain chemistry, but it's also this medication that slows down gastric emptying. And what that just means is it slows down the way that your body processes food. So you are fuller longer. Your body is not getting rid of that stuff as quickly. But it kind of begs the question, and maybe we should have said this in the beginning, but I've worked in the medical field since I was 17 years old. So, 15 years. And so there's always questions that are popping up into my mind, especially being in that world so much. So we're starting these people off on these extremely high doses because the theory is more is better, right?
Mhm.
But it begs the question, there's a lot of, not a lot, but there are side effects that are coming into play with these medications. One of the biggest one being paralysis of the colon. And what that means is you'll have a lining in your intestine that contracts and helps move food through. So the delaying of gastric emptying slows down your hunger signals. You feel fuller longer, which is fantastic. But then those higher doses, it kind of begs the question, it maybe not be the medication itself that is causing these side effects and these issues, but maybe it's the amount that the dosage that's being prescribed. Again, just a
Nausea.
theory that's,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, people are nauseous, they have no energy, they don't feel good, they feel sluggish. How do you feel when you're dealing with constipation? Like,
Right. 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 Right.
right? I
Right.
mean, it's all of those things. And so, maybe that's not it. But when I was doing my research, especially learning about the benefits of starting slow,
Mhm.
that was the first thing that popped into my head, was maybe these side effects are not because of the medication themselves, but because of the amount of dosage they're beginning. And
Yeah.
you and I are on the same page when it comes to coaching clients one-on-one when we work with nutrition and fitness. Like, they don't come in and they have to, they're not expected to change everything in
Right.
the first week. We build them up slowly. Why are we not doing the same with medications to make sure that we're finding an appropriate dose?
Yeah. Like
So just
could you
lots of,
imagine having a client like start like they've never worked out before or it's been a really long time, they've never tracked macros, and all of a sudden we're like, okay, so here's your first week or your first even
yeah,
4 weeks, and you're going to track all of your macros, you're going to weigh and measure everything, also you're going to work out 5 days a week. Oh my god, like they're going to be,
yeah,
that's a nightmare, yeah, why do
yeah,
it with this? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. So lots of curiosities that come up when we're talking about this incredible medication that has incredible benefits. But yeah, it makes you question the way that it's being used. Is it appropriate?
And so again, to that point, like we want you guys to take this information, have the education to then have the conversation with your medical professional about if you feel like it's a fit for you, or they maybe feel it is a fit for you. Come to the table with the information of like, I'm open to it, or hey, I would like to have this conversation about it, but I want to make sure that I do it the right way. And so all of these drugs do have like on the front of their boxes or whatever, they do state with diet and exercise, like healthy diet and exercise. They state that. Are all doctors pushing that? No, unfortunately not. And I'll just like little nod to the medical professional is world is amazing, but they have very little nutrition education when they go to medical school. Doctors, it's about maybe a month's worth of nutrition, and it's relatively basic. Nothing against it. I'm not like knocking it, but um, they're just not giving enough like help in that realm. And so you as the possible patient doing this or bringing it to the table, like come to the table understanding like if I if I'm not changing my lifestyle in any other way, it's not a magic, it isn't a magic pen. It's not just going to fix the things. Like Astasia said, she's had several women that she's talked to with that have gained it all back because they didn't change any of their other lifestyle factors. And so That's it. That is a very important thing. And just to note, because this is slowing down the gastric emptying, slowing down like the desire to eat more food, any kind of calorically restrictive diet, whatever it is, Atkins, keto, whatever, Weight Watch, all the things, anything that's calorically restrictive, sustained for a long period of time, it's going to result in a 20 to 30% decrease in lean mass, not just in lean muscle, but in lean mass. It's actually going to cause degeneration in the bones and the ligaments and the joints. Like, it's actually decreasing in a not a good way, the overall. And so when you're combining this, if you're going to do it, when you're combining it with some healthy lifestyle changes, protecting the muscle is super important. So picking up some resistance training, doing, strength training, whether it's with a coach or whatever, is going to be imperative, not just to your success, but also to the longevity of your body as a whole, to be able to, to sustain this. And then the other piece of that is cycling. That has been a big thing that I've loved learning about, is maybe your body needs to be on this for forever. Maybe it is a possibility. There are some people who do. But the recommendation is to cycle just like you do with hormone replacement therapy. Like, you cycle yourself on that. And so the recommendation, what is it, like 4 weeks on, 3 weeks off, I think is the best recommendation. And so again, bring that to the table to your physician and say, hey, I want to do this, but I want to start low, very low, and I want to slowly increase. And I want to make sure that I'm not just reliant on it, right, at all times. And I want to be able to look at the idea of cycling it 4 weeks on, 3 weeks off. And if you want to, I'll just mention, but during that 3-week period of not being on it, you're basically refeeding the body more, right? Because it's not slowing down the metabolism. And it's during that 3 weeks that you can like really ramp up or focus more on like lifting heavier, or increasing the longevity of your workouts, and really kind of challenging the body in that small period, right? And then you get back on the medication. And so it's a really fascinating way of doing it, and I think it's probably the most valuable method.
Yeah. And I want to reiterate, this isn't something that's going away. And so as coaches, we are looking to work with clients who are wanting to do it this way to help guide you, because it is, when you're in the stage where you're using the medication, it's going to look different from when you're off of it and we're giving your body a break. And like you said, we're refeeding and resting. And so there's a lot that goes into it, and having that extra support really could help you continue to use it appropriately. And I also really want to touch on the fact that with Claire talking about the loss of lean mass, one of the things that I have seen a lot over the last couple years in my career is women with osteopenia or osteoporosis. So osteopenia is the beginning signs of osteoporosis, and then obviously we go to osteoporosis. Women especially start developing things like that because of hormonal dysregulation issues. It was very, very uncommon. It's still uncommon for women my age in their 30s to get tested for hormones, and I am a dumpster fire of hormones. So we've really missed this generational issue. Now these women that are in their 50s and 60s are having osteopenia and osteoporosis because of that. I do foresee that this is going to also be something that is going to encourage osteopenia if not being used appropriately. And so resistance training with bands, protecting that muscle, nutrition and resistance training is how we have strong bones and we have strong muscles. Obviously, genetics come into it, but the best way to protect our muscle and our bones is to utilize them. And so don't downplay the importance of strength training and doing it appropriately, whether you're on the medication or you're off of it while you're cycling. I mean, don't discredit that, because you could be saving yourself down the road from a lifelong issue that's, not reversible. So I just wanted to kind of mention that.
No, for sure. I could not agree more. And it all, it's funny as you're saying that, it's the thing we've been saying for like hundreds of years, literally, like
Yeah.
thousands of years, like diet and exercise. Like, I know we don't want to hear that. Like, I know we don't want to hear like, yeah, 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 whatever. But that is the basis to like, it's the basis to all of this, right? So this is just a boost up, possibly, possibly not. We're just here for suggestions. Um, I do want to kind of just, a lot of the fear mongering out there, or a lot of, not even that, but a lot of the fear from people that I've been hearing is like, but what are the long term side effects? Like, what, like Astasia's already talked about, the intestinal issues, but like, what are the long term side effects? And I just want to lovingly say that if you're someone who is creeping up towards type 2 diabetes, or maybe you already are type 2 diabetic, or you're carrying around excess weight just in general, that it didn't happen overnight, right? We know that. And the long-term risks of carrying the excess weight is far outweighing any long-term effects of these drugs. I don't even like using the word drugs. It's a peptide. It's already naturally occurring in our systems. Like, it's not
Hmm.
this external new, like, non-natural, I don't know, whatever. Like, it's working literally with our bodies, not against it. It's not masking anything. It's not band-aiding anything. It's not causing a host of other, like, oh, well, if you take this, your left leg is going to fall off. Like, it's, like those, it doesn't have those kind of, uh, what do you call it? Asterisk things at the bottom of the screen, when they're talking about the commercials. But type 2 diabetes and obesity brings to the table cardiovascular disease, kidney
Yep.
disease, liver failure, blindness, leg and toe amputation, possibly cancer. Like, that carries way higher risks than anything that they're seeing with these peptides. So, and again, not a judgment thing at all. Just look at the big picture, for yourself. And weight loss piece of this aside, the ability for this peptide to help um, like develop new neural pathways in the brain is how people who have had addictions, or um, tendencies to do certain whatever, like certain things that are addictive. We're seeing an insane reduction in that. And it's because when people are on these peptides, it's creating new neural pathways. Now, the benefit for us as coaches is working with clients that are taking this to develop in that window of time that they are on the injection, to develop new habits. Like, it's the perfect time for us to bring to the table, okay, let's start implementing one small habit at a time. And people are seeing like just an increased uptake and ability to like take on that habit, crush it, and it becomes a part of just their normal everyday, versus almost like they're fighting against, I really want to get this new habit, but it's really hard. I can't remember. They're picking it up so much more easily, and they're letting go of other habits that don't serve them as well. Like, cleaning their kids' plate every time that they're not finishing their plate. They're just eating everything off of it. One of the things I heard Dr. Tyna, highly recommend you guys check her out. But one of the things I remember her talking about was ADHD, and how it can kind of run your life. I I am her. I get
Hmm.
that, but how it has completely shifted her. Like, we kind of have like an OCD-ness about taking on a whatever task and like beating it like a dead horse, pretty much. And she's like, now I just do the task and I move on. And I'm like, what? That's a thing? I want that. So it's just really fascinating that, yes, maybe weight loss is a side effect. Maybe it's helping, possibly it is helping in that realm, but it's also helping the overall wellness, mental health, physical health of people. It's really remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
a beautiful thing. I mean, it is fascinating. I think that was what shifted for me, going from, I mean, because I had people call me and asking me about this stuff, and I'm like, this is trash. Don't waste your time. But then I spoke with somebody who had a horrible binging issue. I mean, we're talking she would wake up in the morning to wrappers in her bed because of her emotional binging that she had done since she was a
Mm.
toddler, like, 12
Um,
years old. They would have to lock her in her bedroom so she
oh my
wouldn't come
God.
out into the kitchen. It was horrible.
Wow.
Trauma related.
Hmm.
This medication completely got rid of that for her. I
Oh
mean,
my
she's
God.
been
I
through
just got chills.
therapy. Yeah, I mean, she's been through therapy. She's done all of that stuff, and this was it. And so it's an incredible tool used appropriately. I mean, it could change so many people's life, even if they aren't concerned about weight loss.
Yeah. So what would you say, we always want to give like tactile, like, okay, action, steps or whatever for people. So, um, you're probably sitting there, people, and thinking like, this is sounds great, but like, how do I start this process? Or like, how do I reach out to my doctor? So you being an expert, I would say, in having worked in the medical field, can you maybe share with them, how they should approach their doctor and what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing foremost I tell everybody from working in a medical field and then also having autoimmune disorders, do your research. Like, don't just take this podcast, do your research, and then be prepared to advocate for yourself and what you need from your healthcare provider. So it's important to have a conversation, an open conversation with your doctor about your interests in this and why you think it'll benefit you and get their feedback. It's also extremely important to know that if your medical doctor blows you off, and I mean it happens a lot. It's sad to say, but if they're not willing to have an open conversation with you about the potentials of using this and helping you, then you need to find a different doctor.
Yeah.
And that might be the hardest thing for you. Also, question them, like make them explain it to you so you know that they understand what it's being utilized for. A lot of these providers are getting drug reps coming in pushing it as the magic drug, and so that's the information that they have for you.
Yep.
Don't accept that. Okay, like be ask questions, want to educate yourself on it and work as a team with your doctor. And like I said, if they're not willing to do that with you, then you really need to look at finding somebody else. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that you need to find somebody else on your team. Because at the end of the day, as a medical professional, we are there to help you advocate for your health. And that I feel like has become broken in the system.
Yes.
So I'm I'm getting into my like medical professional voice because I'm super passionate about it.
I
But
love it. I love it.
she mentioned Dr. Tina, so Tyna. She has been using these for a very long time with patients. This is not new for her. Like we said in the beginning, this is not a new medication.
Right. And she's to that point, she doesn't use it at all for weight loss, actually. She specifically uses it in micro doses with her client or with her patients for a host of other issues, health issues.
Mhm.
She, I think the only person her dad, I think, is the only person who's actually using it for weight loss. That's the only person literally that she's doing it in a higher dosage and specifically for weight loss because she's concerned about it. He's very overweight and won't, exercise and diet, whatever. So
Yeah.
that to me was really fascinating to hear her side of it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's another doctor. I know he's Eastern based. I don't know if it's North or South, but Dr. Seeds, and
Yeah.
it's Seeds. Again, he has been utilizing it forever. He uses it. He does use it for weight loss, amongst other things. But in my personal opinion, I feel like he's really been the pioneer of this medication for a very long time. Um, Very regulated, educated on the way it should be cycled. That's something that's not talked about in
Yep.
healthcare at all, is cycling it. And so finding a provider like that, um, and it might have to be a telehealth consult. I know Dr. Seeds does offer telehealth. Um, the frustrating part with this is maybe your health insurance does not cover this avenue of utilizing the medication, whereas if you go to your doctor and ask for it, um, and he prescribes it to you, you might be able to get it covered. but the question bears, pay for it now or pay for it later.
Right.
So I think that's important to keep in mind that if this is something that you want to utilize, do it in the safest way and be willing to invest that in yourself.
And to that point, if your doctor initially is saying like, yeah, we can do this, and I'm going to prescribe it at this dosage, that's the starting dose, you can challenge them on that and say, I hear you. Are you willing, like she said, have the open conversation? I would like to dose much lower to start, just maybe to save your own pocketbook. Like starting with even micro doses of this could be very beneficial, and that might be a better financial option for you. Or flip side of it, maybe it's starting, maybe not too hard too fast, but like starting with a higher dosage and then titrating down, like, to a place that is okay, like this is sustainable and I don't need the higher dosage. I'm seeing changes and experiencing the benefits. And that can also save some money. And then, of course, the cycling of this. I mean, it's literally like 1 month on, 1 month off, pretty much. That can also be a benefit for those who maybe are paying out of pocket or don't have, the insurance that covers this. But those are really, really good suggestions, Astasia, for, how to bring this to your doctor. I know as you were talking about this, last little side note, but my OBGYN, I had a conversation with her about this the last time I was there, curious, like, is she doing a lot of prescribing with it? And she isn't, very, very minimal. And she said, I refuse to prescribe it to women, one, who aren't open to optimizing or replacing, like doing replacement hormone therapy, who need it. And two, I refuse to prescribe it if they're unwilling to change, like to start getting steps in, or unwilling to change their nutrition habits. And
You
I
have a
was
good
like,
doctor.
this is why I come to you. I really love
Yeah.
you. Like, I mean, find someone like that. She's not against it. She's always open to, okay, but with the caveat of, yeah, I'm open to it, but you got to meet me halfway. So find someone like that, because that's definitely what you want to be, someone you want to be working with. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah, guys, we hope that this was helpful, educational, all the things. Again, don't hesitate to reach out. Like, if you have more questions, you're welcome to reach out to us. We, have both of our contact information in the show notes. Anything else you want to add, Anastasia?
No, I mean, I please do reach out. I mean, for us, this is something that we are continuing to educate ourselves on. And so the best way for us to educate ourselves is by being asked questions. And if we don't know the answers to them, I mean, that's how we grow, right? So advocate for yourself, get some help along the way. Don't be afraid to ask us. We would love to help in any way. And yeah, that's pretty
And
much it.
be willing to change, to be open. Just be open
Mhm.
to change. If you're not doing anything fitness, nutrition wise, or you've done it in the past and the systems have failed you, all right? You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. Maybe this is the thing that could help you. It's not magical. Maybe it's just a little extra advantage in combination with
Mhm.
nutrition and exercise. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we love you guys. We hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.